What's up everyone, Mark here, and welcome to the Prepared Pantry, where today we are tackling the perennial problem of Thanksgiving leftovers. Now, you're almost always going to have some leftover turkey, some leftover stuffing, some leftover veg, and I wanted to come up with a more creative way to present that or do something with it that was a little unusual. So today we are going to do Thanksgiving in a pie. We're just going to take a bunch of Thanksgiving leftovers, really, and put them together between pie crust. Now, this is another recipe that uses the same pie crust that we used in my chicken pot pie recipe, among others. I highly recommend you make your own crust. You will thank yourself. There's just nothing else like it. So I think what I'm going to try to do is another one of those where I have everything here on the island and I don't have to step away. Obviously, I'm going to have to step away to put the pie in the oven and take it out and do the tasting. But from the start to finish of the prep, I want to be able to do it all right here. Just kind of take you right through it. So before we get started, I want to thank you all again so much for your continued support of the channel and for watching these videos. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you have not already. Click the red button down below or the watermark in the corner of the video. When you do, just make sure you hit the bell icon so you'll get a notification every time I have a new video out. All right, let's get started on this pie. Okay, so to begin with, like I said, we've got my double crust pie dough. Same recipe that we used in the chicken pot pie, same recipe we used in the apple pie as well. You can check that out if you haven't seen it. So these are ready to go. The rest of the ingredients we need are 4 tablespoons of butter, 6 tablespoons of flour, 2 cups of chicken broth, 1/4 cup of heavy cream, 3 cups of leftover turkey. This is just shredded and cut into bite-sized pieces. 3/4 cup of leftover veg. This is what's great is you just use what you've got, right? So I wanted to go for a little color, so I'm using some peas and carrots that I had. Use what you've got left over. Green beans, fine, as long as they're cut into small enough pieces. Basically anything can get mixed in here. We have 2 cups of leftover stuffing, 3/4 cup of dried cranberries, salt and pepper to taste for seasoning, and 1 egg lightly beaten, which we're going to just use as an egg wash on the top crust. So the first thing we're going to do is get the heat going and melt our butter. Once the butter is melted, I'm going to add the flour. And we're just going to whisk this and continue to cook it until the flour is kind of toasted and starting to brown a little bit. Should only take a minute or so. You want to make sure you're stirring this constantly because it will easily burn. The flour is kind of the thickener for the filling, and all we're doing here is kind of cooking off that sort of raw flour taste. Okay, we're good. I'm going to add our chicken broth. And the cream. Trying to make sure that all those bits of flour are dissolved. So we're going to continue to whisk this and bring it up to a boil. And once it's at a boil, we're going to reduce it to a simmer and just continue to cook it for a few minutes until it starts to thicken. Not quite even boiling yet, and it is already starting to thicken up nicely. I think we're already pretty good. So I'm going to switch from the whisk over to the rubber spatula, and we're going to kill the heat and add our turkey. I did include some white meat and dark meat in here. It was nice to have both for a little bit of variety of flavor. And you can add your vegetables right now too. There's nothing stopping you. If they're already cooked, left over from Thanksgiving, then you might want to get the turkey mixed in first and then add the veg, just so you're not bashing them into a pulp when you're getting them mixed in. And go with the vegetables. Okay, and that is just going to wait while we get our pie shell ready. So, to our bottom crust, we are going to add our stuffing. It's kind of important for these layers to be even, so we want to get this spread as evenly as possible and squished as flat as possible all over the bottom of the lower crust. And air spaces here aren't going to do you any good, so do your best to flatten it, but just try not to tear the crust. Okay. And I actually like to take the bottom of a dry measuring cup, to use that to really press everything into place. We need to add our dried cranberries and get them spread out into an even layer. Try and get even coverage. And these are chewy now, but they will absorb plenty of liquid as the pie bakes and become nice and soft. You can't just really use regular cranberry sauce in here, because jellied cranberry sauce will just melt into nothing and soak into other parts of the pie. All right, so now our turkey and vegetable mix goes in. I'm kind of keeping it mounted in the middle, just because I don't want to overflow any edges where I need to be able to work the crust to seal it up. Carefully work the pie filling out to the edges. We're good. I forgot to season it while we were cooking it, so we'll do a little bit of salt and pepper on the top here just to make sure that it's seasoned well enough. There should really be plenty of salt in here already from the cooked turkey. And now we will take our top crust. And I'll carefully turn that over my hand and lay that right across the top. Okay, now because this has the potential to spill all over the place in the oven, we're going to move it onto our rimmed baking sheet. And as we've done with other pies, I'm going to press and then pinch together the top and bottom crusts. And fold the excess over underneath. And we're doing this, we're trying to leave just a little bit of a reveal there. We're gonna crimp this and pinch it shut later, but and you can cut off the excess crust if you don't like a thick crust. I just more want to make sure that this pie stays sealed. As you can see, we are quite full. Now I want to make sure that this is firmly pressed against the edge of the rim of the pie plate. And now I'm going to go around and do the little crimpy edge. Okay, and as is usually the case, we're going to need some vent slits at the top. This time I think I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do 2 slots, and instead of cutting actually a slit, I'm going to cut a couple of little pieces of dough out. Kind of in a little bit of a oblong shape. Just down for a second. And a knife down the back of it. If we can make this look like a little leaf. That there. I think my second leaf turned out much better than my first, but you get the idea. Now we're just going to brush with our egg wash. Okay. So this is going to go into a 450 degree oven. We're preheating now for about 15 minutes on the lowest rack. Then we are going to crank the heat down to 375, and it is going to continue for about 15 more minutes. It'll be bubbly and browned, and you'll know when it's done. If you feel like it's not getting bubbly quite enough, but it's starting to burn around the edges, you can always shield the crust with some foil and let it continue to bake for a little while. But let's get this into the oven. And there we have our pie hot out of the oven. The timing was honestly kind of spot on. It was 15 minutes at 450 and then 20 minutes at 375, and this is what we ended up with. No leaking at all. Kind of surprised. Looks like there was almost an attempted blowout on the side over here, but that didn't happen. The leaves came out kind of interesting looking. That sort of thing usually works better if you can use bigger pieces of dough that you haven't cut out from, being soggy against the filling. I could have cut some scraps if I'd given it some forethought and it wasn't just a spur of the moment thing. But we're going to need to let this cool for 45 minutes, let everything settle, and then we will cut a slice, and hopefully we can see some nice layers of Thanksgiving all up in there. So we will be back in about 45 minutes. All right, let's give this one a look-see, shall we? Look at that, you can see the layers. See the stuffing, the cranberries, and see the cranberries are nice and plump and juicy. And it's definitely Thanksgiving in a pie. And you know something? You can make this with leftovers and freeze it. Bake it later. You know, just prepare the pie to be baked at a later date. And have it a few months later when you're craving those flavors of Thanksgiving again. A great way to use up the leftovers. The turkey, the stuffing, the veg. The only thing you might need is the dried cranberries, but I have those around because I use them on salads a lot. I didn't even have to make the crust because, as I said, I like to keep my own homemade crusts in the freezer. I actually made crusts. I made a double batch that I'd have extra, but the ones I used for this came out of the freezer. An absolutely unbeatable way to have your leftovers. I hope you give this recipe a shot. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And I think that's it. We'll see you in the next one.